PoE 2 endgame wall. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, let's see it. Pretend this is a cool animated intro. You don't need to do that.
All right, I am back with a new Path of Exile 2 video, which may end up being my last one for a while, which is unfortunate. I don't really want to make this video. I know it will probably get me yelled at a certain amount by existing fans, calling me a tourist or whatever. I'm a new player. I'm a new player to Path of Exile, so I can only give my take, but this is based on an article I wrote today about Path of Exile 2's endgame.
Okay.
And that was sort of a reaction to my own experience, and then a video I watched from Kriparian, who is a great YouTuber. I watched so much of his stuff during Diablo, and he's great. And he
like
really articulates the issues that I'm having and made me feel like I'm not really alone. And the end result is like, I got to stop playing this for the time being. Where I am currently at in the game, it does not seem like there's a reasonable path forward to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, this is early access.
Wow.
I will fully acknowledge that, and clearly it is an early access for a reason, because this endgame is not it for, I would say, the vast majority of players. I also think I have probably played more than...
I'm going to be honest. I also think that the end game is very dry. I do. That's my feedback. I think that's fine.
And a lot of, quote unquote average players, not as much as, the 14, 15 hour a day grinding streamer guys, but probably more than a lot of people who have just been kind of, playing the early access when they have a free moment or two. This is my job, so I have had a lot more time.
Sure.
I've gone through the campaign 2 times, once on normal, once on cruel difficulty, which is ironic because cruel is much easier because your build is really ramped up by that point, where
which is a balance problem. Like they should the game should not get easier as you level up. It's stupid.
Levels, it can be really challenging. Crip talks about how Act 2 was like the hardest the game was for him, because you can be so underpowered at that point, especially melee, that you can't really do anything about it, because you can't really farm up in a traditional sense in an act, because that's just not really how it's structured. So
he's talking about
are a little bit.
He's talking about Kriparian talking about gems in PoE 2.
So you figure out some of these fights. It was challenging. It was definitely, there were challenging aspects to it, especially in normal, and I'm okay with that. I do not need to be
was a joke.
Diablo 4 steamroller of just, blowing up entire screens of guys and, just not really feeling any challenge even at kind of the hardest difficulties. It's fun, certainly, but I appreciated Path of Exile's more kind of methodical pace, the bosses, which, maybe not fully Dark Souls, but that kind of idea where you learn.
The bosses are the best part of PoE 2. In my opinion. Like, so I don't, I'll talk about when he talks about it. But like, in my opinion, I think the bosses are by far the best part of the game. Like, I love the bosses, and I'm so disappointed in endgame that I don't get to do more of them. Like, I have a build that deletes bosses. Like, I can destroy bosses so fucking fast. And like, I want to be able to like, yes, bro, like I did 1 million damage in like 2 seconds, right? But like, I can't see that happen. As good as Wukong bosses, I think that they're 2 different types of gameplay.
Attack patterns, trial and error, all this stuff. So by the end, I was cruising. I think I beat all of the act bosses in anywhere from 1 to 3 tries with my ranger build.
Yeah.
And I was excited to get to the end game because, Evie, there's a ghost.
Yeah.
Evie. She went, she came. I felt my build was like, okay, I'm going to keep powering it up. I'm going to keep leveling up. And this end game looks really interesting. It's like this big map. You got all these different nodes. You plug in waystones for like different levels of challenge and things. And that sounded pretty cool to me. It seemed like a really interesting setup. There's a whole new skill tree for it. And I'm like, all right, let's take it on. This is nothing like the game that came before it. The main issues here are that all of these dungeons are now, or these maps are now one death over.
I also think that after playing the game for a while, and I have to tell you guys, I haven't died in like 3 days. Like, I have a like, it's so stupid. So I just have a shield. I hold down active block. My minions kill everything. I have mind over matter, and I can mana regen. So I have like an effective health pool of like 4,000. And that's with a quarter of my health reserved. And I just sit there and everything dies. The wall. Yes, it's a joke. And so, isn't that boring? It is. It's boring. That's why I want to see the bosses that are interesting. Minion builds are so good? Yes. But are you on T6? T16? Doing a T11, I think T12 is the highest I've been able to do because I can't get the high-level waste stones. They're annoying.
One life, and if you die for any reason, you're out of the map. And not only you're out of the map,
I don't think that they should do the one death you're out of the map. After playing the game, I think that that level of punishment adds nothing to the game, and it just makes it unfun and shitty. Just like I don't. Yeah, it just sucks. Why? It doesn't feel good. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Like why even do that?
You can also no longer go back to that same map because it eats your waypoint token. So you have to go grind out a new waypoint token, usually on a lower level, depending on how many of these you have, and then get back up to that tier, and then hope you don't die again.
Yeah.
One death per level, especially at like the base levels of these, seems overly punishing. That is certainly not.
It just doesn't. It doesn't make the game better. I think that should be really the question. Is like, I don't think that the one death per map makes the game better. I think that it actively makes it worse. Like, and this is coming from somebody who's spent a lot of time in PoE 1 and PoE 2.
Not how the normal game worked in any capacity.
Makes people quit.
Dying was like not the greatest because it would set you pretty far back on the map. And not only would you have to trek all the way back, but they would respawn all the enemies. It wasn't, it was kind of annoying, but it was fine. And then all the bosses, they were hard, but they would at least spawn you right outside again.
Right.
Again, a lot of boss fights are trial and error, learning their moves, figuring out how to beat them. And unless you were just so powerful, you would tank a boss, one-shot a boss, whatever, really easily. They're certainly all about trial and error. The young game is not like this all. And the problem with the one death thing is, okay, maybe I could, that's a challenge and it's not ideal, but you just play really, really carefully. Yes, but that only works to a point. And, you will find at certain points in the game, kind of no matter what your build is, depending on where you are in the game, that it is possible to get one shot. And then the further you go, it almost becomes more possible because of enemy damage scaling. And that's
for me, I haven't really had that happen, but like I also play a minion build. Like I feel like I'm fine. Yeah, and you don't build defenses. I think a lot of people don't build defenses. Like my defenses are like above average, right? They're not insane, but they're above average. Try playing other classes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Is I'm speaking from this perspective. That's why I prefaced everything by saying that.
Certainly true on a ranger, which relies
chaos
on
damage.
Kind of dice roll.
Yeah, chaos damage was overpowered. Grinding Gear Games acknowledged it, and they nerfed it today.
To get around stuff, and obviously on melee, you're getting hit a lot more. So not only are you losing a map, but like any rogue hit from any big enemy can theoretically kill you. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well this isn't great, and I don't really love how this is going, but is this just the beginning? Like, am I just not strong enough to be taking this on, even if I am kind of at the lower ranks? And like, yeah, I was beating some of the lower maps and stuff, but then you'd take a one hit and then, lose your stone, and now I'm out of stones and
I think that's what's going to happen to people, is that if they're playing the game and they die one time and then they lose their map and then they have to farm another map, I think it's just going to make a lot of people quit the game. And I don't think that that's a good filter. It's a skill issue? Well, yeah, of course it's a skill issue. Obviously, if they were better at the game, it wouldn't have happened. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously. But that's bad. I think that you shouldn't really look at... Just because you can overcome a mechanic with being better at the game doesn't make the mechanic good. It just means that you can overcome it. Yeah, skill issue. Yeah, same with Elden Ring. Well, not really, because like in Elden Ring, Like if you die to Plasudiax, for example, like actually, well, to be fair, that run back is kind of annoying, but not really, right? It's not like you really, like you have to go and re-clear Farum Azula. If you die to Melania, you don't have to go re-clear the Halig tree and like run back to her. So all these skill arguments really bother me. Don't you want other people playing the game? I think that a lot of people like, it's like gamer ego, I think in a lot of cases, but I don't think that like the map system, I think what's going to happen is that the campaign for me, like this is what my experience for PoE was, right? Like if I was going to get PoE 2, and I know they're going to fix this, by the way, my experience for like enjoyment was like this. And right here was maps. That's the way I felt. I'm still playing on my monk. Yeah, exactly. I honestly hated Act 2. It was honestly so long. Yeah, sure. But why? Because I don't feel like the maps are engaging. I don't. I feel like in maps, I'm spending the majority of my time killing normal mobs just to kill them. And then there's more normal mobs and I just kill them again. Like they're boring and stressful. Yeah, exactly. They just don't they don't seem to be entertaining. Like, and also like they don't really drop anything. So you're just kind of like doing this for no reason. And I feel like, yeah, it's very repetitive. Like I've been in a situation where like I'll play for a while and then I'll stop playing and then I'll be like, okay, this is boring. I'm going to go maybe play Stalker or something like that, right? And then I come back, I play PoE again. I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy a new item. I buy a new item. And then it's like, okay, I want to try my new item. And it's like basically the same, right? Because like I can't get higher waystones to like really benchmark myself. And so, yeah, lack of reward system for the difficulty. Lamau, so what did you do in the first game? Okay, so here's some examples, right? So in the first game, besides maps, which I thought maps in the first game were much more entertaining and much more engaging because they had a lot more random events in them. But also you had Delve, you had Heist, you had the Settlers League, right? Settlers of Catan, whatever it was. You had, let me think, what else besides that? There were a couple of other, what am I dumb? Blight, yeah, you had Blight, Alva, right? And so PoE 2 is worse. So I think PoE 2 right now is just simply undercooked. The end game is undercooked. I think the campaign is an S-tier experience. I love the campaign. I love the character building. I love the design of the game. I just think that the end game needs more time to cook and they need to add more content to the end game. That's all. I love PoE 2. I think it is fucking amazing. And that's why I want to be able to do more stuff in the game. That's my whole point, right? I'm not saying the content that you have is bad. I'm saying I want more of the content. To be honest, it's still in early access, and that's exactly why we give the feedback. That is exactly why we give the feedback, is because we know it's in early access and can be changed.
And figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And then I watched the crypt video, and the crypt video kind of laid everything out. It is the video that just straight up made me like, yeah, I'm out. Okay. Like this is not something I want to play. Yeah. The issue there is like the long and short is it doesn't get any better from here. It gets worse. And what Crip explains is that the further you get into this, the deaths get more and more punishing. So everything is, one death, you're out of the map, but you get further in, you start losing XP. And Lord knows how hard it is to, gain XP at higher levels already. So you'll lose some percentage of your XP if you die.
15%.
You will not only lose your higher tier waystone, but in some of these places, you will lose all of the connecting points to like where you just
the
got
usages
to.
of
So
the tablet, I believe,
replay those maps to get all the way back up to what you need.
Yeah.
And in those lower maps, according to him, like you're not farming anything remotely at all that you need.
Stop dying then. I understand that a lot of people, like, their solution to all of this is just be better at the game. But I just hope you know that, like, that, and that's a mindset that you're entitled to have. But you have to understand that if you take that mindset, you paint a very, very narrow brush of, like, your audience. You alienate a lot of people, and you end up having a lot of people, like, just bounce off the game and not be interested in it. Yeah, like, so that's fine, but you have to understand that, like, that mindset is fundamentally hostile to new players. And also, like, it does, if mentality forces all people to use meta builds, that's another point, right? Is that the harder and the more punishing you make the game, the harder players will try to not get punished. And I think the result of that is going to be people that are spamming meta builds and nobody that wants to try anything themselves because they're afraid of getting punished.
So you could do that for an hour, get all the way there, die again, go back. You've lost XP. So like you can actually be behind where you started at that tier. And like as annoying as it is to have to start a map over and lose your waystone, that sounds infinitely more annoying the higher you get.
It's compounding.
The second thing he verifies is that this one-shotting thing is not going to stop. Like not really in any build. He's talking about how like you have to build for like 3,000 HP, like all the armor you can, max resistance, all of the stuff.
Yeah.
And even then, you can still get one shot or at least killed in very cheap ways. And he talks about, floor effects that you can barely even see.
I think that they should remove all on-death effects. I think that they're fundamentally not fun to play against. Like, and I'm looking at this from like a game design perspective, not a difficulty perspective. I just don't think they're fun. I think they're fucking annoying. They're fucking annoying. A lot of times they're hard to see. It never feels fun when you get killed by them. Like, it just sucks.
Kill you, or enemy attacks that are not telegraphed, or elite modifiers that you have to like fully understand as they're running towards you.
It's a speed bump.
You can't avoid because there are no movement skills in this game. And he talked about how
there's a couple.
The entire game essentially is based around dodge rolls and not screwing up dodge rolls. Because if you are in a situation where you can get one hit, the only way you can always avoid that theoretically is hitting every dodge roll perfectly. And obviously, I know there are like these highest tier guys who are like have the best builds in the world and are like crazy APM dodge roll folks. But like, Crip is a top tier player, and if he's saying this, and I've seen other top players saying this too, like what hope do any of us have? And it's enough to just sort of make me stop playing. I don't see a reason to keep going here if it's not really even about getting stronger. If it's not like I just am, not skilled enough or whatever because I don't hit every single dodge roll in every single map. Like that to me is nothing like what I've played so far. And I feel like I've heard some people pushing back on this. Asmongold made a video about Crip's video. Of course, I guess I'm doing that here, but I'm not playing Crip's video. Where he's like, oh, like it's not that hard. Like he's complaining too much, and like both.
Oh no! By the way, I didn't think it was that hard because my build's overpowered. It got nerfed today. My build got nerfed today, and guess what's really funny? My build's gonna get nerfed. It's still going to be overpowered. Yep, it's still gonna be fucking broken. It won't even matter. It's still OP. Yeah, exactly. And so, no, I completely respect Crip's opinion. I think he's right. Guys, he's still using it? Yeah. Not yet? Just a patch just announced? Yeah, for sure.
Asmongold switched off of a warrior because it was too hard.
He's right. Yeah, I did. Bro, it sucked.
And switched to something else.
Yeah.
And also, like, a lot of the people complaining are not in the end game. They might be on cruel difficulty or something like, well, I'm on cruel difficulty and this game isn't hard at all. It's like, yeah, that's true. Cruel difficulty was not very hard, but you get into the end game, you play an hour of that and figure out like how this is going and how this is going to work. I think you will probably end up being where I'm at. And the thing is like,
I unfortunately agree with him. And I think this video is really important. So Grinding Gear Games knows where the pain points are. And I feel like right now it's definitely at the end game. Definitely at the end game, and I feel like also this is the best problem for PoE 2 to have. Because fundamentally, what I'm saying, and I think what Paul's saying, and what a lot of people are saying, is that we love the content. We want to do more content. We want more things to do. Like, I want a boss in every map. I'm sorry, I don't care. So, it shouldn't, nope, I want a boss in every map. You're nitpicking? I really don't think I'm nitpicking. I get why you say that, but I really don't think so.
I don't want to abandon this game. Like I really enjoy Path of Exile. I had a great time with the 50 whatever hours I put in it to beat
too? I'll have to watch that.
Both stages of the campaign. I'm just so disappointed that the end result of this is essentially like a non-functional end game where it doesn't seem remotely worth trying to play it.
I think that the philosophy for the end game is really cool. I just don't think that they've nailed it. And this is why it's in early access. It's going to probably be in early access for the better part of a year. They're going to keep iterating on it and changing it. Yeah. Do you think Act 3 is endgame? I think that being in maps is endgame. I would say that's endgame.
Especially solo. I would love for stuff to be overhauled to the point where it actually feels rewarding for, you know, the pretty decent, you know, if I'm steamrolling everything on Cruel, I'd at least like to, you know, participate in the end game in a more meaningful extent than like, you know, just the base lower tier ones. And even those, if you step the wrong way, you can lose. And there's nothing, you know, you can really do about your build to fully change that, according to, you know, other people. I can imagine maybe this will be fixed and overhauled over time. I looked at what they're changing in the end game, and it was just like, we're adding more rare packs so you can finish maps faster or something like that. And like, they didn't address anything about difficulty or whatever. And like, to be clear, I'm not anti-difficulty. There were very, very challenging parts in this game, in the early campaign especially.
I think that it's about how difficulty makes a player feel and how a player reacts to difficulty. So like, for example, I think some of the act bosses are really hard. I think the Act 2 end boss is pretty hard. And I don't know if Doriani's hard or not. I haven't seen his mechanics before, even though I've killed him twice. But it seems like he is. I think that it's like, if you want to have something that's really hard and really challenging, you need to make it generally less punishing. Like, basically, the reason why Elden Ring worked so well with having its super bosses like Malenia and like Radon is because there was like no run back to get to them. It was just like a second, then you're back, you do it again. That's the reason why Sekiro works so well. Ishin's insanely fucking hard. Demon of Hatred is insanely fucking hard, but you spawn right there and you go immediately into it. I want to know why people can't realize we're missing 6 weapon types along with all the uniques, 1 more trial system, and the rest of the story, all the other characters, the third ascendancies. People don't understand that. I feel like we do. Like, all of those things, none of those things are going to cause the maps to be more interesting. Like, you're talking about 2 separate things. Like, yeah, there's no relevance there. It has nothing to do, it has nothing to do with it. Also, Malenia and Demon are optional and hidden from casuals. Yeah, true.
When you don't have the build, that
we're also missing half of the endgame progression system for maps. Well, yeah, but like, if I mean, sure, right? But like, I would say then, I mean, still, it's like, well, okay, well, I get there and it's boring. Okay, well, I'm going to wait for the other half.
There, really, you know, kind of frustrating stuff, but you overcome, you change your strategies, whatever. But if in the campaign, if I died to a boss and it kept sending me back to the previous map every single death, I would be like, screw this, I'm out of here. But that's essentially what the end game is. I don't know.
Well, that's effectively what happened with the Dreadnought in Act 2, right? Because that was like a really, really long shot that you had to go all the way through this like big caravan. And if you died anywhere in the caravan, you would get reset back to the beginning, and people hated it so much that they added a checkpoint in the middle. So I think what Paul is saying is something that a lot of like players have already kind of beta tested extremely early on. Too bad, don't die. The thing is that every time that you like, the reason why Elden Ring was such a breakout, tremendous success is because it didn't listen to people like that. It didn't listen to the people that said, oh no, it's good to have things be super punishing and waste your time. That's why they added Stakes of Marika. That's why they removed a lot of the runbacks in the game. And they focused on the actual difficulty that players find genuinely fulfilling, like actually beating hard bosses. So I don't want to make the game easier. I just want to have the shift of difficulty go towards more challenge and less punishment.
Change it, like, the one death map thing seems kind of baked into the mode. So
I don't think it is.
At best, they nerf enemy damage to be more reasonable, so you're just not always getting one shot. One thing that actually does scale pretty well is enemy health. Like, my build was actually doing still really good damage to these higher level enemies. I thought that was a really...
I think that it doesn't. I think the health scales too little and the damage scales too much. I think the mobs are too easy. I do.
A good aspect of it. But if you're just going to be one shot with every attack you can't dodge roll out of, or like fighting a boss where you don't know
as
the
a minion build,
and the first attack kills you, like
yes,
what are you supposed to do about that? And the analogy I like that I put in my article is like, it's like an Elden Ring, you know, a very challenging game that people love and like overcoming the challenge. If you fought Millennia for the first time and died and it reset, it took all of your runes.
Great example. Great example. Wow, what a good point.
And it erased all sites of grace on that part of the map. Like that is the equivalent of this here, where I think it's great that games can be challenging, but if they just put in things that are irritating and exhausting, progress erasing for its own sake, like, no, I'm not going to deal with that. And that's...
I think that a lot of people won't. And I think exactly what he says and how he feels represents a tremendous amount of people. I think that he's right. I actually think that almost everything that he said here, he's been right about.
A literal waste of my time if I can play a significant amount of a game and essentially get nothing for it. Like, at least right now I'm getting some XP, but if I start losing XP, what am I doing at all at that point? So that's why I'm done for now. I would love to come back to this. It's early access. You know, they're going to make big changes to this and that. And there's more campaign to add. I'd love to play more campaign because that was definitely the most fun I had. But,
I would agree.
I'm curious how everyone else feels about the end game. If you're running into some of the same issues I have, if you are there, or if you're not there yet, check back when you are, and you can see if you agree with me here. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
I think that everything he said is completely valid. I do. How could they design it this way and think it was good? They don't think it's good. The developers don't think it's good. Do you want to know how I know that? Because they released it in early access and not as a full game. The fact that they released it in early access implies they know it's not good. They said it's not ready yet. It's a work in progress. Why is it a work in progress? Because it's not good enough yet. So it's just that simple. I disagree. Quinn is right, but differing opinions. Well, I think it's not a different opinion. I think it's a different audience. So basically, PoE 2, I think, does a great job at onboarding new players into the acts and doing the campaign. I think that it's very challenging and very demanding, but at the same time, it's still approachable enough for average people. And especially if you're a person who's had experience playing any Dark Souls game or any other sort of like challenge game. But I think that a lot of what this guy said was based on what someone else said. I can't take him serious. Well, okay. Well, I mean, maybe you could take what I'm saying serious, because I'm agreeing with pretty much everything he's saying. I think he's right. I think what he's bringing up is very fair. And I will look. Yeah. Apparently Elon is streaming PoE. Okay. I cannot fucking believe that. But I'll look at it in just a minute. But first, I want to go and talk about this a little bit more. People are conditioned to value years of service rather than contribution to society. Take the punishment as conditioned to be noble. Well, for me, I just, like, my mindset of it is that I want to play a game and I want to feel like my time isn't being wasted. And whenever I'm doing maps, this is my concern, okay? So, like, if the devs are going to watch any part of it, send them this. I feel like I'm spending too much time killing white mobs and not doing any sort of challenging combat that makes me as a player have to think abstractly and make decisions from the second to second basis. I think that rare elite mobs do that, but the majority of the time I'm just trudging through easy, basically throwaway mobs that are not challenging at all until I get to a couple of interesting rare spawns and I get excited to be able to do a boss. I love doing boss fights. I think they're the best part of PoE 2. And I think that every map should have a boss fight, and PoE 2 should lean into that more because I think that's the highest quality experience of the game. Now, the tactile gameplay that you have, I think, does kind of diminish a little bit in maps because you're just dealing with AoE builds and stuff like that. And so you're not making as many, like second-to-second decisions. But I really enjoy the game. I think the game is amazing, and that's why I want to see more of the game. And right now, I feel like the end game... Here's a really good way to say it. I feel like I have a car that can drive 200 miles an hour, and I can only drive... I'm in a school zone. I feel like I'm in a fucking school zone. Like, there's never a point where, like, I can just pop off, right? Like, where there's a bunch of, like, monsters and shit like that, right? Yeah, too many trash mobs and shit like that, yeah. And so, disagree with the take. When you fail a map, you only lose the waystone and some experience. I'm not sure why people are so concerned. I die, I use another waystone, and I keep playing. Well, why would you lose the weight? Like, I don't think that you're asking the question from the right direction. Why is it a good thing that you lose the waystone and you can't do the rest of the map? Because I don't think that it's a good thing. I think all it does is it punishes players and it makes the game feel worse to play. Yeah, like it's not fun. What about time wasted? Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you lose and like your character dies and you lose experience too, it should be 3 portals. Yeah. It's annoying that people only say get good or skill issue. Well, the reason why they say that is because they can't construct an argument or a reason that's aside from that. That they can't actually rationally think about the topic, and so they have to discuss it in like these insults, basically. That's the reason why.